I hate editing images only for the time that it takes. It consumes so much of my time, and I'm about to cut your time down to a tenth. This system is so nice and it works so well. And believe me, I've been working on this forever, and I really want to show it to you on how I edit a block of photos from a shoot. And this is just for the client to be able to go through them and pick their favorites. It's so much easier to pick favorites, or they're going to like a lot more if they're edited prior to seeing them than if they're not. And editing them the old fashioned way takes a long time. This is for my proof editing. Trust me, I could tell you that 90% of them are going to be ready for print with this system, but I still go back and do the full edits when there's going to be a big print or they're using them for something other than just social media. But this system, you're going to love. So let's get into it. We're going to do a really quick shoot so I can show you the shoot that we did prior to this. And then I'm going to show you the editing process, which you are going to absolutely love. If you don't have an iPad, you may buy one after this. Let's get into the shoot and then get into the editing.
Okay, let me start this out by saying I know this isn't for everybody. And I know you purists and pros that have been in this for a year are going to tell me a lot of different things. I don't care. This system works for me for batch processing, for proofing, and it works well. I'm just showing you this shoot really quick because it's not about the shoot here. I'm just buzzing through so you can see the shoot itself so I can explain this to people. This is about the editing process that I use for these type shoots. You know, the social media shoots, I show a lot because I want to sell a lot. You know, they get 15 or 20 images for this social media shoot in small res that they want for social media. It's simple, but I want to be able to sell more, you know, so I don't want to just do, you know, 10 or 15 images and have the rest with blemishes and so forth. If they look good in the images, they're going to want the whole gallery. They're going to want more images. I get to sell more. It's that simple. So I want to present done images to them, but I don't want to spend hours retouching every single photo individually. I want a batch process where I can just go, boom, you know, fix these, throw them up, and then go from there. So first thing I do is bring them into the iPad. I like sitting with the iPad and going through images. It's just fun for me. You know, I can watch TV show, I can go through the images and select each one. You can see the blemishes on our face. There's a lot of touch-up that has to be done. Not a lot, but, you know, a decent amount. I don't want to do each individual one. I want a finished product. So I just go through my images and check mark the ones I want to do and check mark the ones I want to present in the gallery. This gallery is going to be used for them to select their 15 images or whatever they get for their package. It's that simple. Once I make my selections, I'm going to export these. Now, I export these as a DNG file, not a JPEG. That's pretty important because JPEGs will degrade your images each and every time. And I want to have a decent image to start with when I go through the process. I'm going to save these photos and I'm going to move them onto my computer. This step, the first part of the computer step, is creating an action, and I create an action for each individual person. Not each individual image, each individual person. Again, you can use these, what I'm going to use, the Retouch for me, for one at a time if you want to. If you want to go through that, that's fine. I like the actions. They work fantastic for me. They do a great job, and I can control how much they do. Now, for this, I'm creating an action, and I'm going to use the mattifier. I don't use that very often, but when I need it, it's invaluable to me. The key with this is I'm going to duplicate the layer, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a skin mask. The reason I'm creating a skin mask when I'm using mattifier is because if she had a shiny coat on or a necklace or something like that, I don't want it to mattify that shine. I just want it to mattify the shine on the skin. So with the skin mask, it's going to allow me to do this. So now that I have the skin mask, I can run the mattifier, and it's only going to work on the skin itself. It's a simple process. And remember, we're recording this as an action, so you're not going to have to do this for each individual image, as you'll see in the end of this here. So I create each one. When you do actions and you run the retouch for me individual ones, it's going to remember what you set it at for this person. That's why I do this initial one, this initial image for each individual person, and then run a batch, which you'll see, and it is night and day. It's so much easier than doing each individual image. So the mattifier, I'm setting lower because I just want a little touch of correction. I don't want porcelain skin at the end, but I am going to take it to the edge of that so you can see the difference of the Retouch for Me program and what it does for you. So once I'm done with this, I can flatten this now because I just did the mattifier on that one part. It's good. I'm going to flatten the image and then go on with the rest of the Retouch for Me. The only time I create another layer is at the end, and I'll show you why in a bit. Now, it doesn't matter what order you do these in, honestly, unless you're doing a mattifier and unless you're doing a heel that has a special thing that you have to take care of. Let me get to that soon. So next is dodge and burn. Again, set up each one, set the strength and so forth to each individual person. Each individual person's skin is going to have different needs, and that's why this is such a great system on how to do this. For me, again, for you, you may have a different opinion, but for me, this works. And I'm going to go through each one. And remember, your action is recording everything you're doing. So, this is going to be the batch for the rest of the photos. We're just setting up this initial one, which, probably takes you 5 minutes tops. But for me, I'm just showing you quickly on the video. I'm going a little bit slower so I can explain it. If that makes sense. So I did the dodge and burn. Now I'm doing skin tones. Skin tones you have to watch. You don't want to overdo it, but skin tone's going to even out the colors. Like, somebody may have red on their chest or red on their arms, and you want to even out to the face skin tone. This is what this does. Blend it with ease. Don't overdo it. Once you click it, apply, it's going to remember that it's 72, and it'll do 72 for each individual one when you're doing the script. Just so you know that. Like, it is set up for each individual person. And again, it doesn't matter the order. Like, there's no specific order. The only order that matters to me is that the first one, which was the mattifier, and the second one, or the last one, which will be the heel. But like I said, I'll get to that. Eye brilliance. I wish, if you're listening, Retouch for Me, the whites need to be separated from the iris. This is so overdone with the whites of the eyes. If you wanted to pump up the iris a little bit more, you can't. There's no separation between the two. So I always keep this very, very low because the whites will always be overdone if you don't. 19 to 20. I don't think I've ever gone over 25 with this. It did a good job, but I would really like the separation on that. The next one is those eye vessels. I love eye vessels. It saves so much time, especially somebody that had a bad night the night before. This helps a lot. Again, leave a little bit there because everybody has them in their eyes. And if you just produce a pure porcelain eye, it's going to look fake. I'm going to take this to the edge of being almost perfect, just so you can see how it removes them. But when you use the blend on this one, it'll actually show you, if you look really closely in the whites of the eyes, you can see the little highlighted areas. That's the eye vessels that are going to be affected by, this blend. I'm going to keep it a little bit higher for just the sake of this video, but it's going to remember what you did. You can still see there's a little bit there, but it's not like completely perfect. This is an easy step-by-step process. Now, here are the blemishes that I want to get rid of, but I have a mole on her neck I do not want to get rid of. And the other day, I had the same thing with my daughter, and it was, I'm doing porcelain volumes first. I apologize. This, again, use this very lightly. I'm going to set it up a little bit higher so you can actually see the difference. But this will add shadowing and highlights where, a face normally has them. It's that simple. But if you overdo it, it's going to look a little fake. You can see, like, the before and afters. It's just adding the highlight, adding the shadowing. Use this with a grain of salt. Believe me, it'll save your butt sometimes when you did lighting wrong, but don't overuse it. And I'm going to set this at 47, which is high for me, but I just wanted to show it to you. Now, the last one is the heel, and I'm going to create a second layer again. And there's a reason for this. I just want to go through this. But after I do the heel, you're going to see that mole on her neck is going to be gone, and I don't want that gone. And my daughter, she puts these freckles on, and this would take out the freckles. So I want the blemishes gone, but I want to be able to maintain and keep the mole or the freckles or those natural things. So that's why I created a separate layer for this. And once I create this, I'm going to save it like that. This is the end of my action, okay? And don't worry about that mole or the freckles or anything else that you wanted to save. Just press stop on your record, your action record, and I'm going to close this out. I'm not going to save it because I'm going to batch process it. But you can see that layer there. It shows all the information right there. Leave it as it is and close this because there's the next step, which, again, you could do it on computer. You can have that corrected now, and you can run an action and do each individual photo. That's up to you. You wouldn't have to take them back into the iPad. You can just pull up each individual image and pop that out. But with my process, I want to go back to the iPad because I love using the iPad for correction and for, retouching. But I don't want to do all that work, if that makes sense. So this is your image processing. It's under scripts. It's really easy. You select your folder. I'm going to save these as a PSD because I want the layer saved. And then I'm going to select the action I just created. So that's under Retouch, and it's Retouch Matte. And I'm just going to run this. And this is going to run through each individual image all on its own. I can walk away from the computer and it'll just keep going and get all the images done. You'll see it go through step by step, each individual thing that we did, and then it's going to save it as a PSD file. You can't get simpler than this. You don't have to be near the computer. You don't have to do each individual one. It's going to do it for you. Once this is done, I'm going to save this onto an external hard drive and put them back on my iPad. That's simple. On the iPad, once I get them on the iPad, then I can sit again and have a cup of coffee, watch some TV, and just make those final adjustments, those little tweaks that I need to make. But it's a lot less work than it would have been if I was doing each individual image and correcting each individual blemish and everything else. Again, this is my process. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. But, man, it does the hard work. And you can see this skin texture is still there. Like, yeah, these are a little tiny bit overdone, but that's what she likes. I have to adjust the tone of it. But I have a PSD file. I still have like a raw file that I'm dealing with versus a JPEG, a flattened JPEG. Now, if you make an adjustment in Lightroom, it's going to wipe out your layers. So don't do that. You're going to open this up in Photoshop on the iPad, and guess what? You see the layer there? I'm going to take the eraser brush and just tap on that where the mole is, and it's back. If they had freckles, it would be one swipe on the freckles, and they're back. Everything else is going to stay the same. My image is corrected. I can flatten this now and save it back into Lightroom. I'm done. If by any chance the program missed some blemishes, which it does, it's not a big deal. You could have edited them right there in Photoshop, like really quick, because it did most of the heavy lifting. Or you can bring them back in Lightroom and just do the heel brush here or the remover here, or just a couple taps, the blemish is gone. It's that simple. And you can be anal about this too. You go through and get all those things, to make it perfect. I don't do that, but I'll show you anyway. It's just a couple taps and it's done versus redoing a whole image. So that's my process. Now, if you are in this, and believe me, I've made this mistake several times. If you make any adjustments on an image before you take it into Photoshop, it will wipe out your layer. So you don't want to do that. So like I'm making a quick exposure adjustment and shadow adjustment now. Now, if I take this into Photoshop, Lightroom has already flattened it. My layer isn't there. I can't bring back that mole in her neck. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this out, go back, use the clock symbol there to, go back, click original, apply, and now I can open it up in Photoshop again, and the layer will be back. So, I've done this several times. It just flattens it after you make an adjustment in Lightroom. So don't make any adjustments until you bring it in and make your little correction on the neck or the freckles or whatever part you have to make a correction on for this. Again, the retouch for me can set up in any which way. If she didn't have a mole or somebody didn't have freckles and I could just run this process through without touching it, I would do it. It wouldn't matter. This process that I'm doing now in Photoshop wouldn't even be necessary. But that mole in her neck is important to her. She doesn't want it disappeared all of a sudden because I did a retouching, automated retouching. And I don't want to have to go through and retouch each individual image. That painstaking hours and hours. And, if you retouch images, you know what I'm talking about. But me presenting these images as they are, I'm going to get more sales out of this, period. I'm going to have people buy more or download more because their images look good. And they're going to accept more of the images or want more of them. And this process, took me from 3 hours or 4 hours down to probably 20 minutes editing how many photos there are, because it's just literally pulling them in, erasing, pulling them out. I'm done. Anyway, so they added this onto Photoshop for the iPad where they have that generative fill. Like, I don't put anything in here, but to expand an image, I wanted to see how it did, and it did an amazing job. So here I'm really testing it because this is a vertical image. I want to make it horizontal. I want to see how good this thing is. So I just set my crop, and then I hit that fill. I didn't even know they had it, but while I was doing this video, I saw it. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to try you. Anyway, it works really, really well, to fill those spots. If you want to make a wide image or expand your background, I mean, it worked fantastic. The shadow looks completely natural. There's no issues whatsoever. And this is on Photoshop iPad now, so that's a big, huge leap for that. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that because I saw it and I'm thinking, okay, I gotta try that. Now, I'm just showing you, like, you can really touch up images completely on the iPad. Now this is iPad Photoshop, but like, it does a decent job. Like, I have no issue with using this for a finished image because I get great work out of it, and I like doing it better than sitting up at a desk with a laptop or having a laptop on my lap and my pen tablet and all that stuff. Like, everything is here on the iPad. It does a great job. So if you did want to retouch and do that anal stuff one at a time, you can. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll leave the link for 30% off that retouch stuff.